of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
In accordance with the requirements of the open meeting law, please be advised that this meeting is being recorded and broadcast live over the Lunenburg Public Access channel, on Facebook Live on the Public Access Facebook page, and will be uploaded to the Lunenburg Access YouTube channel after the meeting. The agenda lists all the topics which may be discussed at the meeting and are those reasonably anticipated by the chair. Votes may be taken as a result of these discussions. Not all items listed may in fact be discussed, and other items not listed may also be brought up for discussion to the extent permitted by the open meeting law. I just want to note tonight that we do not have Caesar with us. He is still away for annual training with the National Guard, and he will be back next week. And then also the town manager is on vacation this week, so we are joined today by Julie, the assistant town manager. Always a pleasure to see you.
Thank you.
All right, we're going to start tonight with public comments. Do we have any public comments from the board?
I have one. For those who didn't see last week's select board meeting, I just want to reiterate the need for people to step forward for the Board of Assessors. We have 2 vacancies. We need at least one more member to have a quorum, to have any meetings and votes. So I encourage you, if you are at all interested, please consider, and any questions, reach out and ask. Thank you.
Thank you.
I will say first ditto to what Ms. Emke said, and I will also say that last night was the last night of the town band concert series. An excellent showing. It was a beautiful night, unlike last week when it wasn't so beautiful. But I want to thank Steve Archambault for organizing and conducting. I want to thank all the musicians, everybody who sponsored one of the evenings. It really is a fun, slice of Americana, and I encourage people next year to attend. It was pretty well attended this year, and the new space that they've been using for the last couple of years in front of Pasio's really works well. So congratulations to them, and thank you to them.
Thank you.
I have no comment.
All right. Any public comments from you this evening, Julie?
Public, nope.
Okay. All right, do we have any public comments from the public tonight? All right, seeing none. All right, announcements. Do we have any announcements this evening?
I do. So just a reminder, the town beach hours are Saturdays and Sundays from 12 to 6, and Monday through Friday, 10 a.m. to 7 p.m. And we are expecting the town beach to close. Right now, it's right around Labor Day weekend. We have some board and committee vacancies. One we already know of, which is the Board of Assessors. We are looking for 2. The Architectural Preservation District Commission, there's 1 vacancy. Cemetery Commission, 1 vacancy. Finance Committee, 2. Green Communities Committee, 1 regular member and 1 associate vacancy. Open Space Committee is 1 member at large. And the Personnel Committee has 1 vacancy. So if you or anybody you know is interested, as Renee said, thank you.
Thank you, Karen.
Sorry. Please come on up to the Select Board office. You can get an application from the Executive Assistant, or if you have any questions related to one of the open vacancies. In addition to that, the employment opportunities that we have available in town. The Administrative Assistant for the Council on Aging. It's a 40-hour per week position. The Assistant to the Sewer Business Manager. This is a part-time 19-hour per week position. Assistant Town Accountant, 32 hours per week. Assistant Meal Site Manager is 19.5 hours per week. Conservation Administrator, 36 hours per week. Facility Superintendent, 40 hours per week. Finance Director, 40 hours per week. We're lucky enough to have Karen still helping us out after she has retired recently. Heavy Equipment Operator, 40 hours per week. Administrative Clerk for minute taken for FinCom and Capital Planning. Hours vary on that position. Principal Assessor, 40 hours per week. Seasonal Cemetery Laborers, we're seeking 2 of them, and this again is seasonal, so through October. and videographers that can range anywhere from 2 to 10 hours per week. These positions are posted on Indeed, the Mass Municipal website, the Lunenburg Ledger, and applicable association pages. The best, most detailed site to visit would be the town website. The town website also includes a job description, which gives the in-depth description of each position. So if you or anybody you know is looking for a new career, hopefully in municipal local government, we have a variety of opportunities, and I would love to hear from you. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, and any questions related to those announcements this evening? Comments? All right, we also have communications from other board. We did receive a communication from the Culture Council and Town Cultural Committee, and they're looking, the request was to meet with us next week. I think that because of the amount of time that they're looking for, that it's looking like we're going to be scheduling that for the second meeting of September. We also, I will relay a communication from the library. So this is, I'll just read it. So from the library reports that they had a stellar summer reading program this year with readers of all ages participating. They'd like to thank everyone for making it such a successful summer. The final numbers were as follows. There were 24 adult readers reading 70,133 minutes. 2018 readers reading for 71,633 minutes, and 287 children reading for 201,963 minutes. This was an astonishing level of participation, but we hope to increase numbers next year. The program only ran for 5 weeks, and the library helps bridge the summer vacation so that students can return to school the following year without missing a step. So I want to give great kudos. And let me also finish the announcement. We're also excited for our next event in Lunenburg Public Library Monthly Music Series, supported by North End Subaru, and they'll be hosting an Americana folk duo Hungry Town on Wednesday, August 23rd for a 6:30 p.m. show. And registration is suggested for that, but not required. So I want to, thank the library. I think Muir has done a wonderful job as the library director, supported by an excellent team of elected volunteers, and just want to give them a lot of kudos for the work that they're doing for the community.
Mr. Chair?
Yes.
About your previous communication, I believe, because I went to the first Cultural Council meeting where what they sent for presentation was done. That was in July. And I believe the request is for ARPA funds, and of course, they were not able to submit one earlier because they didn't have a quorum, we didn't appoint a lot of people to it, and because we're coming up on that, if at all possible, I would encourage, again, I don't know what the agenda looks like, but if we could meet with them before we make decisions, that would be helpful.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, do we have any, I'm just going to make a note of that. All right, do we have any other communications from the boards this evening? All right on time. So we have a couple of appointments here. I went a little hectic this evening by scheduling them kind of back to back with the belief that we were going to be pretty brief. I do expect that we're going to run a little late for our 7:30. So we're going to get started with the Bicycles Battling Cancer request to pass through Lunenburg on September the 17th, 2023. Do we have a representative here for that request? All right, we may not be running late for our 7:30. All right, 7:15, Lunenburg Boys and Girls Club Lunenburg Boys and Girls Club toll booth fundraiser request for September the 16th from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. in Town Center. So I've kind of outlined what your request is. If you wouldn't mind just giving us a brief overview. I know you guys do this every year, but a brief overview of what it is you're looking to do, kind of all those steps you guys have taken to make sure no one gets harmed.
Okay, should I say my name and my address?
Yes.
Okay, my name is Andrew Woods. I live at 947 Flat Hill Road. Okay, I work for the Boys and Girls Club. We are looking to do a voluntary toll at the center of town on Saturday, September 16th from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. We will have participants that are going to be parents and adult volunteers over the age of 18. We are doing this because after-school scholarships for our families who need financial aid, we have raised our membership fee this year from $250 to $350 this year. It's still less than $2 a day, but some families still need help and send their kids to the after-school care. This summer, we awarded nearly $7,000 in financial aid, all of which we raised through events like voluntary tolls. Chief Gamble of the Lunenburg Police Department and Bill Bernard of the Lunenburg DPW have already approved this request and have confirmed they see no conflicts or concerns. We have traffic cones, and all participants will be wearing bright yellow safety vests. We will not be interfering with any traffic patterns in any way or sidewalks. Tolls are a great source of support of our program, and we are grateful for the continued support of the Select Board, the Lunenburg Police, and the DPW, and the generous people that support these important efforts.
All right, thank you. Do we have any questions or comments for the applicant?
I have one. This is the same day as the Oktoberfest?
Oh, okay.
Oh, I thought maybe that was intentional because you were expecting higher traffic that
I
day.
had no idea.
Yeah, they're both on Sat. I don't know if that raises any concerns or not. It could be good for you because there'd be a lot more cars, I would expect,
Yeah.
going through the intersection. But I saw you had one in June, right?
Yep.
Yeah. That was my only
Usually,
comment.
they historically have 2 a year in the times that they are trying to have them.
Okay. Not seeing any other questions or comments, is there a motion to approve?
I make a motion to approve the Lunenburg Boys and Girls Club Toll Booth fundraiser request to be held on September 16th from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. in Town Center, following all the applicable laws and guidelines as presented by the applicant.
Second?
Any additional discussion? All right, as many as are in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, no. All right, so we have approved this, so congratulations.
Thank you.
And we look forward to seeing you in about a month from now and supporting the families and continue to do the great work you guys do. I think it's really, as I'm sure you see it in the impact from the kids that are there, but it's a huge benefit for the families, the parents as well.
Yep. Thank you guys so much.
Thank you. All right, we're a little early here. We have a Council of Aging Director. We have Sue Doherty. Are you still called the Council of Aging Director or the Adult Activity Center Director? All right, and this is on the Discovery Program, also joined by Mr. Toll.
Yes. I'm Sue Doherty. I am the director at the Lunenburg Council on Aging. A couple of years ago, right before COVID started, through the Massachusetts Councils on Aging, they developed a Discovery Center for Civic Engagement program, which it encourages people who are newly retired and they have skills that they want to use in different nonprofit agencies and helping out towns. And it doesn't have to be just Lunenburg. It can be anywhere. It could be United Way or any nonprofit around. So then COVID came and everything kind of slowed down, as Jamie can tell you, and we did a lot of Zoom things. And now we can really get going in earnest. And we're having a volunteer fair on Wednesday, September 13th from 4 to 7 p.m. at the Lunenburg Adult Activity Center. So basically, the Discovery Center for Civic Engagement and Lunenburg Council on Aging have partnered together to help new retirees who are thinking what's next in their retirement and would like to use their talents or skills to make a difference in their lives and communities. So they can come up and talk to a representative from different nonprofits. So far, we have the Boys and Girls Club, Alzheimer's Association, Beacon of Hope, the Needs Dog Program, the Town of Lunenburg, Habitat for Humanity, the Discovery Center. David Guyton from the Discovery Center will have a table set up there, and the Salvation Army coming up to do tables. We invited about 20 different people. Whether they will still come or not, I'm not sure, but these are definite people who are coming. And I know you talk about trying to get people on committees in the town, and this could help. And Jamie, who is a transition navigator with our Discovery Center, would like to talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, thank you.
Yep.
I am one of 3 of the transition navigators, and we've been trained by the the program to sit with people and discuss their options for volunteer opportunities. Some of the other two transition navigators kind of specialize in not-for-profits, Americans with Disability organizations, hospitals, that type of thing. And what I've kind of taken the lead, and as Sue said, we haven't had a lot of customers so far, but I've taken the lead on those that are interested in civic volunteer opportunities. And with your permission, what I'd like to do, and I propose this to Sue and to the town manager, and that's why I'm here tonight, is set up a booth at this volunteer fair, advertising like we used to do at the Stillman Fair for volunteers for town boards and committees. I don't know if any of you remember. I do.
Of course.
And I would be it's old. I would be more than happy to represent those boards and committees, answer any questions I could have. But I think it's also a plea to any board committee chairs, any members that want to join this activity on September 13th to answer questions, twist a few arms, make a personal appeal, whatever it takes. People want to volunteer, they want to get involved, but they really would like to get asked, and that's what I'd like to try to attempt at that particular booth. At the same time, I'm going to fulfill my role as a transition
navigator.
and answer any questions on any other volunteer opportunities as well. But if you could kind of put the word out or encourage other boards and committees to participate, they're welcome to be there as well.
Mr. Chair.
Yes.
I would say that, first of all, thank you for offering that, and I, as one member, would very quickly take you up on that offer to talk about that. I was actually maybe a little bit kiddingly saying, hey, well, you're doing the volunteer, maybe we can get some assessors, but obviously, maybe we can. I'd be more than happy to attend as one member of this board after work, so probably not, I won't get there till 5, but.
Right. And I'll have volunteer forms and try to get people to sign up right on the spot if that's possible.
But I'm very supportive of the idea, and certainly I know the success you've had in working the other events that you mentioned. So, yeah, I'm fully in support of it. Thank you.
Yeah. I really love this idea. I would go, I think 99% sure I'm going to be out of town that week for work, but wholeheartedly support this.
We just need to get the word out, get people to attend. I mean, we have the agencies, we just need the people, and it's, so get the word out there for us.
All right, so I don't know if we need to formally vote to have you representative, but it doesn't sound like we have any objection to that. So thank you for volunteering to do that, Mr. Toll, and we will make the effort as well to join you there to help encourage the public. This is a great thing that you guys are doing. I know that when we first started this, I know I had volunteered to also help out with being a transition navigator. I know I don't believe I have the capacity to do that anymore, but I certainly can help promote what we're doing. So I will also send a communication, to the school department and ask them to blast this to parents, so that way we can try to, at the beginning of the school year, seek opportunities before people get overly committed to volunteer and learn more about what we can do. This is a really good thing. And thank you, Sue and Jamie, for your dedication to our town consistently.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, so as a reminder, that was Wednesday, September the 13th, from 4 to 7 p.m. at the Lunenburg Adult Activity Center, formerly known as the Eagle House for Council of Aging. All right.
We should make a point of announcing this every meeting we have.
Yeah.
Yes. So I will ask you to make that note.
Yeah.
Okay. So since our 7:30 is a public hearing, we have to wait till 7:30. We're going to go ahead and go to our 7:45. So we're meeting with the building commissioner on earth removal permits. So if you are able to come forward and present and discuss this, that'd be excellent.
Greetings.
Good evening. So generally, what we normally have is if you can kind of present to us, I don't know if you have all the documents in front of you, kind of where we're at and what, with all these is usually just a rundown of the drive. And if you're able to share this with the folks at home, that'd be helpful too. Do you want to start with the inspection report?
Yeah, so on July 25th, 2023, I did the site inspection of PJ Keating's multiple parcels that they have the earth removal permits for. Nothing out of the ordinary going through all the parcels and all the permits. Did note, if anything, there's better dust control measures than I've seen in years past. Having worked for Lancaster, I've had to do the same inspection with them. Dust control seemed to be substantially better. The access roads were in better shape. Otherwise, again, everything's pretty much how it has been that I've seen before.
Okay. So what we have in front of us this evening, I'm just trying to pull it up, is we have permits number 15, 16, 17, 27, 30, and 57. Is that correct? Mm-hmm. And so what's being requested for us this evening is to renew these permits, and your observations are that all the sites are in compliance. We know that PJ Keating has traditionally come here before us to present on these. I think at this point, my opinion is that this has become a little routine. But your reports just confirms all sites are in compliance, no concerns.
Yeah, there were no concerns. If anything, it's cleaner than it has been in years past. With all the rain, they're not really operating the quarry either, so that is helping.
Okay. We have any questions?
I can't believe we're down to just 6. I remember back in the day, like 20.
This was a
earth
quick,
removal permits.
it's a quick and easy
They've
one.
removed all the earth from Lunenburg.
All right.
No questions. This is pretty straightforward. They're all 6 permits from one owner.
Mm-hmm.
So, and with that inspection report, I don't see any issues.
I just have one question, and forgive me for not reaching out in advance to ask this. We have the site that's right near Mass Ave, Townsend Harbor, blinking on his first name, but it's being
Dan
run.
Proctor?
Proctor.
Yeah, thank you. It's being run by Dan Proctor. What is the status of that? 'Cause
That has
it's
transitioned to now an active construction site with building permits and site plan approval from the planning board.
Got it. And at that point, as a reminder to everyone, earth removal permits do not apply because that then gets covered by that. Okay, is there a motion to approve the permits?
Move that we approve the permits as stated, but just for completion, or they are permits number 15, 16, 17, 27, 30, and 57 as presented in the inspection report of the building commissioner.
Second.
Any questions or discussion? All right, as many as are in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, no. Okay, if you wouldn't mind letting the applicants know that their permits are approved for another year. Thank you. All right, we're going to come back to Bicycles Battling Cancer request to pass through Lunenburg. So if you wouldn't mind coming forward, stating your name and then the nature of your request this evening, that'd be helpful.
Great, thank you. My apologies for being delayed. My name is Mark Walter. I'm here on behalf of the annual Bicycles Battling Cancer charity ride, which is scheduled this year for Sunday, September 17th. This is, I believe, our 15th year of the event. It starts and ends at Camp Low in Lancaster. So we'll be coming through Lunenburg on that morning. About 2 miles of Lunenburg. I've provided the map as part of the approval process. There are 4 rides in this charity event. All 4 will come through along those same couple of miles in Lunenburg. Chief Gamble has already given his okay on the event. Nothing has changed since last year in terms of the route through Lunenburg. And I know we also will be providing a certificate of insurance, as we do each year. Our current, the American Cancer Society's current contract sort of renews September 1, so we won't have that until the first week of September. But as always, that will also be provided.
Okay. Do we have any questions this evening? And I'm sorry, I didn't catch your name at the very
Mark Walter.
Okay. Any questions this evening for Mark?
Did I read this correctly, that you expect all the riders to be through there by about 11 o'clock that morning?
Yes.
Be done, okay.
There are 4 rides, so they'll be kind of staggered coming through, 7:30, 8 o'clock, 8:30, and then there'll be a gap because it's literally within the first few miles, so then the last ride starts at 10:30.
I have no questions, but I want to commend you for continuing this event. It's been a very helpful event, and from what I understand, raised a decent amount of money.
Yes.
And it is kind of, as far as the traffic flow of the 2 miles to Lunenburg, it's kind of invisible to the town. I've never heard anybody say anything about it, notifying that there were ever any issues. Not that I think there would be.
Glad to hear that. Thank you for that feedback. And we have rides of all 4 distances, 30 miles up to 100. So if any of you are cyclists or want to be, come on out this September.
Got any 5-mile rides?
Sorry.
Runs, 5-mile runs.
Yeah.
I have no questions or comments, but thank you.
Yeah, so I know that you do this every year. How big of a fundraiser is this for you guys in terms of what you guys do over the course of the year?
Yep, so it's one of the largest for this chapter of the American Cancer Society. I'm not as close to the number side of it, but I believe annually it's about a $50,000, raised over $50,000. If not more. I feel like that even might be, I should know that. I'm kind of more the logistics and on the operations side. Yeah, it might actually be over 100,000 that they raise, because with about 100, actually, if we do the math, I mean, they usually have in total a couple of hundred riders, and if on average about 5,000, and some are raising like 10,000, yeah, so it's probably over $100,000 that they're bringing in for this event, and that all goes to support cancer research. And
Do they get sponsored like by the mile, like a lot of other events?
they do pursue sponsors to offset costs of different things, certainly.
I mean, the riders, are they encouraged to, like, if you ride the 100, I'll give you so much? per
Yeah,
mile?
that's exactly. They'll solicit donations based on how many miles. Oh, give me, 10 cents a mile or 50 cents a mile kind of thing, or $1, whatever it may be. Yes. Cool.
All right. Well, this is definitely exciting that, that our community is a part of this every year. And so I'm really excited for that. And my last question for you is, generally, what are the ages of the participants?
Anywhere from high teens up to, 60s, 70 people in their 60s or 70s. Yeah, a lot of cancer survivors participate in the event. I'd say the average is probably in that 30 to 50-year-old range, men and women.
Yeah.
I do have one thing now. Since you did put out a call for riders, which is great, what's the point of contact?
So I don't have the URL off the top of my head, but if you were to Google Bicycles Battling Cancer,
Okay.
Boston, because I think sometimes they have them in other regions, you should be able to find that. But I'm happy to send that URL to Elaine tomorrow or tonight.
All right.
Okay, thank you.
Well, thank you for that. Is there a motion? Do we have a motion this evening from the board?
Move that we approve the Bicycles Battling Cancer request to pass through Lunenburg on September 17th, 2023, as presented in their application and by the applicant.
Second.
Any additional discussion? All right, as many as are in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, no. All right, the motion passes. So congratulations, and I trust you guys are going to have another successful year.
Thank you again for your support, and again, my apologies for being
No,
late.
no worries.
All right. Have a good evening, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good luck in the event.
All right. So let me get to this public hearing notice. All right, the time is now 7:30. We're going to begin a public hearing. I'll read the notice. The Lunenburg Licensing Authority will hold a public hearing on or at Tuesday, August 15th, 2023 at 7:30 in Town Hall on the application submitted by St. Boniface's Parish for a special event license, Oktoberfest, located at 817 Massachusetts Avenue, Lunenburg, Mass. The outdoor event occurring on September the 16th, 2023, from 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. will include music provided by a DJ, food and craft vendors, and wine and beer sales, and will most likely exceed attendance of over 100 people. If you'd like to participate remotely via Zoom, that's really for tonight, you can also check us out on the website. All right, so we have begun the public hearing this evening. If you wouldn't mind just stating your name, and then also just giving us, I just kind of gave the overview here, but if you wouldn't mind just giving a little bit of history here and an overview of what you guys are looking to do.
Sure. I'm Jamie Toll, 147 Peninsula Drive. This is Tom Botkin. He's the Deputy Grand Knight of the St. Boniface Council of the Knights of Columbus. We're here to represent the request for a one-day beer and wine permit and a special event permit for the event on September 16th from 10 to 6. We have submitted all the forms. I checked with Elaine yesterday. They're all in order. All the servers of any beer or wine are tip certified. I met with Chief Gamble. He has no objections and in fact has offered Hank the comfort dog and perhaps a police vehicle to be part of the family event. Talked with Chief Sullivan. He also has no issues and offered to try to have a fire truck available. I think they're planning a touch-a-truck kind of event as part of the thing. And Tom and I are here to answer any questions you have.
All right, how many years have you guys been doing this?
COVID slowed us down. I think it's probably...
I think I've done 4 or 5 of them at this point. I have to look back. I was thinking of the same thing myself. I couldn't remember, but it's been at least 3, maybe 4.
I know I enjoyed the last one I went to. I think it was the clam chowder, but.
Yeah, I don't know if that's going to be on the menu this time, but.
All right, do we have any, this is always an exciting thing, so do we have any questions or comments from the board related to the one-day wine and beer sale request?
No. Have you had issues in the past? with this?
No.
Yeah.
Looking at the application, I'm just weird that the application, is totally aside, that doesn't have a date. Maybe we have to change that. Cause I'm looking for where the date is.
I think where you sign, you date it, so maybe that's.
It's date of event.
Are you looking at this
nice.
document?
This one?
Well, maybe I'm looking for policy, okay, sorry.
Yeah.
That says application, okay, anyway. No, I have not, this is of course, a plan that's, an event that's happened annually for, many years. I've attended it when I'm in town, and it's a lot of fun, and I've enjoyed it. And I'm glad to see them applying for the special event license and it working well, so I have no problems. I highly encourage we support it.
Okay.
Thank you.
So again, we have 2 requests in front of us. One is for the special event license, and the other one is for the one-day beer and wine license as well. Seeing no other questions from the board, is there a motion to approve? I'd recommend the motion to encompass both requests.
I move to approve both requests for special event license and one-day wine and beer license for the St. Boniface Parish Oktoberfest to take place on September 16th, 2023, as described in their application, their license application.
Second.
All right, any additional discussion? All right, as many as are in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, no. All right, the motion passes. So I think you guys know there's going to be a little, I think you have to typically follow up for the signatures and stuff from Elaine.
Sure.
All right, thank you both.
All right.
Thank you.
In the event?
Hope you all can come down.
All right.
Me too.
So we are caught up. So
Yeah.
we have an 8 p.m. appointment. I will advise that since, Mr. Pease, did you guys post a meeting for tonight?
I'm sorry, what was the question?
Did you post a meeting? Do you know if the Conservation Commission posted a
We
meeting?
won't have a quorum, and we
Okay.
didn't post a meeting.
Whenever you have your speakers present, we will interrupt where we're at in the agenda and then call you
Carol
for it.
leadership soon.
Okay. All right. So looking through the agenda, we're going to come back then to our goals. All right, let's go to current business. special town meeting date. So I'm going to turn to Julie to present this request.
Yes. So we're looking at the special town meeting date of November 14th at 7 PM. This falls in line with the schedule in the past, which has always been the week prior to Thanksgiving. The select board calls the dates set by charter. And in addition to this, the office also sends out the warrant booklets with the articles, supplemental info, recommendations of the select board and FinCom. The date of November 14th, again, mirrors the schedule set previously, and the opening and closing dates will be August 16th and September 18th at 5 PM respectively. This provides over 4 weeks for article submissions, and upon closing, the Select Board and FinCom will have until October 17th to review and make recommendations. As of right now, the town manager knows of 3 planning board articles and 1 typical budget adjustment article.
All right. Are there any questions related to this?
No.
All right. I move for the select board to schedule a special town meeting on November the 14th at 7 PM and to open the warrant for said meeting on August the 16th, 2023, and close said warrant on September the 18th at 5 PM.
Second.
Any additional discussion? As many as are in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed, no. Okay, we will open this warrant at the end of the week. Yeah, that's right, tomorrow. All right, let's see, we have some minutes. So we have approval of minutes for May the 2nd and May the 9th. Always appreciate Elaine's work when it comes to minutes. Are there any questions, comments, revisions, or is there a motion to approve?
I move noting that 3 of us were here for both of those meetings, so not that, I know we don't have to be, but we were. I move to approve the minutes for the meetings of May 2nd and May 9th, 2023, as presented.
Second.
Any additional discussion? As many as are in favor of the motion, please say aye.
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 Those opposed, no. Any abstentions?
I abstain.
All right, we have approved the minutes for May 2nd and May 9th. Okay, let's go through our warrants. All right, we have an accounts payable warrant in the amount of $742,050.93. We have a payroll warrant, and I know this is going to go up in a couple of weeks when school starts again. We have a payroll warrant in the amount of $768,160.76. We have a payroll deductions warrant in the amount of $17,945.56. I'm also going to pass down some things for us to sign for the events that we just approved.
What was that, 3 or 4?
That was only 2. I had to sign them.
Oh, okay.
Thank you. All right. Next, we have our earth removal permits. Oh, this makes it easy. Only I have to sign. We'll come back to those. All right, and then we have a couple different letters of thanks. Is everyone using black?
No.
I can pass the black
I
one
can
down.
share a pen.
Yeah, I'll pass it down. Or unless
Thanks.
Tom has a black one.
I have a black one.
This one doesn't matter.
I'll give them to you in the folder too. So these are for the members of the Board of Assessors, thanking them for their service to the town. Keep that in there with this.
Oh,
Yeah, they got
okay, sorry. Yeah.
For those at home tuning in, we are signing. And I can do this at any time.
So that letter goes back in there when it gets down there, the folder.
Sorry.
Do we have any action items this evening for the town manager, assistant town manager?
Pen, please. Thank you.
All right, any committee reports tonight?
Just have one. I've called for the first meeting of the Capital Planning Committee. We're hoping to have it either the last week in August or the first week in September. And I've sent out the request for members, what their availability is, and we will start the season with the inventory that town manager has sent out, and also the most up-to-date capital plan for 2023 to 24.
Any additional committee reports?
I have none.
Nope.
All right, Municipal Building Design Committee will be meeting next Monday in anticipation of ARPA discussion that will be happening on the 22nd at our next meeting. No other signatures are required, but if you wouldn't mind passing them down.
No signature on that.
We are cranking here tonight.
Hey, you're gonna have to do something about that.
No, you have to continue in that direction.
And when Heather and I were going over the agenda, she's like, I think you have it a little too tight. And I'm like, we can cram one more thing in here. We'll be fine. All right. So I'm just going to check in with you, Mr. Pease, before we switch over to...
5 more minutes.
Yep, all right. So in our Google Drive this evening, what we're going to talk about next is our fiscal year 24 goals. So we had this last conversation on July the 18th, and we were discussing where we were at with our goals. Next week, Caesar will be back, and so I think we can hopefully finalize them. So the intent tonight is to present, based on that conversation, there seemed to be kind of 3 distinct areas that we were looking at. The first was continuing with 30 School Street, and how we wanted to frame that goal. The second was improving community engagement. And the third area was reviewing select board bylaws and proposed updates for the 2024 annual town meeting, which is a carryover from last year's goals. Based on our calendar, we had planned that for the end of winter, beginning of spring, but due to events with the Board of Assessors and others, we did postpone this and push this off. So, but if we can kind of just talk through this and walk through this, that would be great. So if we can start, though, with objective number 2, because I think that might be a little easier to get through. If we can start with objective number 2. So what we were discussing in our last meeting on this, again on the 18th, was how we can improve community engagement. And so what I've proposed for conversation tonight are 3 different actions here. Creating welcome material for new residents that encourage engagement in town meetings and volunteerism on town boards. I need to silence myself here. Second action is working with other boards and committees to promote positive outcomes or activities that benefit residents. So this is more of that promotional stuff. And Mr. Alonso had a great recommendation, which was engaging residents or professionals skilled in marketing to help promote the town. Through, I'm calling it swag. I think we can find another name for it, but through swag and other material. So we can start our discussions with these objectives. What are our initial thoughts?
My initial thought is that through the establishment of annual goals, in order to know you've succeeded, you need to set some kind of measurable criteria.
Yep.
Otherwise, how do you know that you've achieved this? If you say, I guess create welcome material, for instance, I'm gonna just use that as an example. So that at least you can say, okay, we created this welcome material, and this is a packet that goes out to everybody who's in town. So That's important. This action 2, I guess, that's the most ambiguous or nebulous. It's like, okay, work with other boards to promote positive outcomes that benefit residents. Well, one would think that all the boards and committees already are trying to promote positive outcomes on activities that benefit residents. One would think. So I don't know what that addresses, for instance.
Yeah, I think we can work on the wording. I think the intent is, I'll use, since I'm looking at the Discovery Center, I think that we get a lot of, I think that typically at our meetings, which I believe to be the most watched meetings of all the boards and committees in town, I think that we do provide a really good forum to promote things that are happening at the Adult Activity Center. I think we promote things that happen with the library. I think we have a lot of engagement with the schools and also promote those activities. But there's other boards that we don't hear from as much. And I know that in our policies, really I think we can achieve this by probably leaning into some of the policies that we already have that state that appointed boards are supposed to appear before the select board at least once a year to kind of give an update on things. And I think kind of getting into that rhythm so that way we're hearing these things, so that way it's kind of being on the forefront. That really is the thought. I think that boards are already promoting them, but I think just really creating that opportunity at our meetings to highlight really those good deeds that are happening across town. I think that on the town manager side, that what we're looking for is for her to kind of promote those good news stories for staff and the ways that staff are making a difference to the community. And I think it's really just to kind of do the same thing with our elected officials.
Okay.
But what's a better phraseology? Because if this one isn't hitting it.
Again, when we talk about the action, I guess we'll have to talk about breaking it down into, again, discrete actions and tasks, so we know we've done, it's like we explain to people what we've done.
Yeah.
So it's not necessarily a rewording of that, as long as it's the acknowledgement that we need to do that when we address that goal.
Didn't we also have discussion around involving the schools? Talking to the students, internships, different things to expose them to, civic opportunities as they, graduate and.
Yeah, so there's two things that we're doing there. So the first is that we do have that like student initiative that Lou and I
Right.
have signed up for the year, which we do annually go into the classrooms, usually in middle school, I think it's 8th grade, and then we give a general overview of how local government works. And then we go into the high school. We weren't able to do it this year due to scheduling conflicts, but we typically go into the high school and then also work with different students on what their civics projects are. I think the other part of that was the town manager was going to separately look into creating that type of internship type program.
Okay.
Because I know that we had discussed that previously about providing opportunities for students. I think the town manager has noted that the current hardship is with all the vacancies, it's challenging to bring on additional
Right.
people that you have to essentially supervise and assist. But that was something that the town manager had committed to pursuing, kind of what that would look like, is creating those student opportunities. Was there something more specific, Renee?
No, I think that covers it.
Okay. All right, I'm going to hit objective 3. So objective 3, there's a couple of errors. There are a couple of errors in the bylaws that aren't matching the current charter, the recent charter changes. And so I know that we had this on a goal. I think it's pretty self-explanatory, but I'll just review for the public. The actions were to review all of I did take away, from last year's goals, we had additional actions that we've already completed. So I removed those additional actions. So for action number 1, it's reviewing our bylaws and preparing or modifying any updates to improve clarity and consistency with the town charter. And that's action 2 would then be to hold public hearings for those proposed changes, to present the proposals and receive and incorporate feedback from the public. And then the third action would be to prepare a town meeting warrant article when ready, that details that final proposal for town consideration for spring 2024.
That sounds pretty straightforward. I would say action 2, you read it without the typo, so just make sure the typos is changes. So.
I'll make the note.
I have to, I don't know, well, whatever bylaws, I don't think we ever proposed the bylaws in their entirety, but if we do, as a warrant article, we're gonna have to make sure we note all the changes.
Yeah.
So people are aware, we're gonna have to give people a red line version, so hopefully we're keeping that.
Okay. And objective number 1. So there was a bit more discussion here. I don't know why we got the one that said 23, but so anyway, when I sent these over, I had sent 2 versions. I recognized that the first one had an error, but it didn't look like it sent. It's okay. It's not. It's just a number that was on me. So objective number 1, and we're going to pause here and come back to this if that's okay with the board, so that way we can be respectful of the time for the Conservation Commission members. So we're going to pause on objective number 1, come back to it, and that will trigger a little bit more conversation. All right, I want to welcome 2 wonderful members of the Conservation Commission, if you wouldn't mind coming forward.
If I may, I'm sorry, but this is not supposed to start until 8, is that true?
It's not they don't have a posted meeting.
Okay.
So the meeting, the request, the members from the Conservation Commission will come forward and explain their request. The summary of it, as we have it noted in the agenda, is for us to discuss potential litigation regarding an encroachment onto the large town forest. And then also, they have an announcement to make, which is going to be some pretty exciting information. And then we'll get a brief update on steps taken so far by the town to support the request for Conservation Commission, their agent position to be filled. So I will invite both of you to come forward, and if you wouldn't mind stating your name and then just delving right into it. We know both of you are excellent public speakers, and I'm excited to hear about the...
No pressure. Bob Pease, 11 Winter Green Court.
Mary Wilson, 138 Whiting Street.
All right, good evening.
And I'm here to request that the selectmen authorize litigation against someone who is encroaching in a large town forest. A little history, way back in 2020, someone on the Conservation Commission noticed that there was encroachment by someone on Townsend Harbor Road, and we started to pursue that. One of the members of the select board, its current chair, suggested that we should do a thorough search, of all our properties to see, was that the only example of encroachment, or, are there other encroachers? And so we did that, and we found that indeed I found about 22, by looking at aerial photographs, I found about 22 examples of encroachment. And so I brought all of those to the town attorney, and the town attorney said, wait a minute, Bob, we're not going to take all of those on at a time. We're going to take them in groups of 5. And so we did the initial group of 5, and all of those, the selectmen did fund a survey of the area around Cowdrey, and we resolved all of those issues amicably, we resolved all those issues, with the abutters. Some of them weren't happy, but, nonetheless, they were all resolved. So then we identified a second group of 5, and we sent letters out to all of them, and 4 of the abutters, were working on amicable resolution. The 5th abutter, the people on Chase Road, 950 Chase Road, let's go directly into that history. I took and I sent the information, to the town attorney. The town attorney, in sometime in the early part of the year, sent them a letter, which you have a copy of, saying, we think you're encroaching. can you please, remedy this encroachment? So then the people that live there came to a Conservation Commission meeting on April 5th and said, this isn't fair. We didn't put the shed or barn there. It was there when we purchased the property, and we don't use it, and so, we don't think we should have to pay to remove it. So then I advised them that, we asked them, at the time I was chair of the commission, and I asked, can we come and look? And they said yes. And we also advised them to be going back and, consulting town council. I went in, after that I went and I visited the property and I took pictures, which I've shared with you. And the pictures do not support their assertion, in my opinion, that they weren't using the shed or barn. It's kind of large for a shed and small for a barn. It's kind of in between. And when I consulted with town council on it, he said, well, wait a minute, if they just bought it, let's look at the multiple listing on the internet. It was still there, and the multiple listing clearly said that, whoever buys this property is responsible for moving the shed, which is not on the land. So based on that, he sent them a second letter, which again you have a copy of, saying, please respond by a certain date, otherwise we'll pursue other remedies. And we never heard another thing for them. And so then at a recent meeting, the Conservation Commission had a unanimous vote authorizing me to come and request to the select board, and request that you authorize, litigation against these people.
Okay. I just want to summarize. I know summarizing isn't always excellent, but I just want to summarize to make sure I understand what happened. So, you identify that there was a likely encroachment on this property. A letter was sent to the owners on January the 27th. A follow-up letter was sent after receiving no response on March the 31st. In response to the second letter, the owners appeared before the Conservation Commission, presented their argument, which was that we purchased a property, that the property that we purchased, that the shed was not on it, that we don't use it, and that we shouldn't be responsible for, get off of town property. That subsequent to that, the owners also provided permission to the Conservation Commission to come and inspect. That following the inspection, we have the photos behind us on the screen, that there's clear evidence that the sheds are actively being used. And then also, town council was able to identify the listing, which we have a copy of up here as well, which clearly identifies as a disclosure that the shed is not on the property and that is being sold as is, subject to the seller's satisfactory relocation. And that there was adequate information provided to the new owners that this was going to be an expected cost for them to do. And so the request at this point, now that you have communicated with the owners at 950 Chase Road, now the request is for us to authorize litigation to move forward, to compel the owners of the property to take the shed/barn off of conservation land and do with it as they may. Is that a fair summary?
No, it's a better summary than my presentation, because I left something out.
Okay. With that knowledge, any discussion, well, let's have some discussion with the board. What are our questions and thoughts?
You can start at your end if you wish.
I have two questions. When I did watch the April 5th recording of the Conservation Commission meeting. I saw the homeowners present, you got permission to go on site. Have you heard anything from the homeowners since that April 5th meeting?
No.
No response to either letter? Okay.
No, and of course, the town council sent it,
Right, two more letters.
certified mail, with receipt and all that
Yep.
stuff.
My second question is, not that I think that the previous homeowner left all of this stuff in the shed/barn, but did you confirm or ask them, the current homeowners, if this is indeed
No, I didn't.
their items? Okay.
And I think I was clear in my little paper that that's my interpretation. That's an
Yeah,
interpretation. You know, I don't know for a fact, but to me, the photos, it's hard to conceive that someone will leave all that liquor
Right.
laying around, and
And there's stuff outside of the shed as well. Okay.
To me, this is pretty straightforward. I support the request for litigation. The fact of whether they're using it or not, to me, is irrelevant to the point. The fact that the shed exists and we have it on the MLS listing, that they, even if it wasn't on the MLS listing, it really wouldn't matter. Again, it would be irrelevant. But the fact that they know, because it's on the listing, there's no defense of saying, okay, well, we thought it was on the property, whatever. I mean, I understand people are generally reluctant to move things. I'm sure it's going to take some money to either relocate it or tear it down. But it is on town property, and the town has to protect town property rights, especially conservation rights. So I certainly support the litigation request.
Yeah, it sounds like you haven't gotten a lot of cooperation, and that they're not acting necessarily in good faith. I have zero tolerance for that, generally speaking. I mean, people that engage and act in good faith, I can work with that. But I don't like when people just, go crickets or just tell people to pound sand. Since this isn't their stuff, I am potentially interested in the four-wheeler and the motorcycle. Can you just clarify for me now, and maybe it was in here, but is this entirely or only is it partially encroaching or entirely? I couldn't tell from the map, from the image.
it's based on the aerial photograph.
Yep.
Okay, which is always subject to error. It's entirely on conservation land.
Okay. Yeah, I think I agree that it's straightforward. I mean, that you just can't be allowed to go on. They're not engaging, and this is it. You're at that point now. This is the final recourse, right?
This is what the town attorney recommended.
Okay.
Yeah. I think that what matters to me what matters to me, obviously, you know this, is that we always talk to residents before we arrive at this point, that we give them a fair opportunity to resolve these conflicts. Sometimes things are accidental, unintentional, you just don't know that you did it. And then once you're made aware, you can come to your senses and do what's necessary. As has already been stated, whether they are although I believe that it seems clear that these items are likely being used, that their current use is in fact irrelevant, that you can purchase a property and inherit a previous violation. And as the current owner, it is their responsibility to remedy it. So whether this issue was borne by them, they certainly own it now. And so I hope that they're able, if they're watching tonight's meeting, or I hope they're able to quickly get this resolved. It's never our intention to pursue legal action against residents, but as Mr. Alonso stated, we have the ultimate responsibility of protecting town property, and this is a clear encroachment. With that, I move to authorize litigation for the encroachment on the large town forest occurring by the property owners of 950 Chase Road.
Second.
Any additional discussion? All right, as many as are in favor of the motion, please say aye. Aye. Those opposed, no. The motion passes unanimously. All right, so with that unfortunate business out of the way, let's go to some happy news here.
Well, actually, I'm going to delay the happy news to the end because it's always better to end on a happy note, I think. Yeah, it's a little bit of strategy. I did want to bring before you and ensure your visibility to the staffing issue that we're having in the Conservation Commission now, and to advocate on behalf of local businesses and homeowners that have projects and future projects within the Wetland Protection Act and municipal bylaw jurisdiction. And I will wrap this up with 3 requests. So as you know, we're budgeted for 1.5 heads in the Conservation Commission office. In the spring, around the beginning of May, we had the resignation of the part-time head. That vacancy lasted until mid-July. In the summer, beginning in mid-July and ongoing, our full-time head resigned, right? So that puts us currently at a napkin math deficit of about 300 resource hours. So things are piling up, right? despite everybody's best efforts. So this is causing the Conservation Commission to prioritize urgent tasks and deprioritize others, which is impacting our local businesses and homeowners. Our current priorities are scheduling and conducting hearings, which are required to be held within 21 days of a request submittal, or the applicant has a presumptive approval and we lose the opportunity to protect our wetlands. We are also prioritizing emergency orders. We're having to deprioritize the publication of meeting minutes. We're currently backlogged 6 meetings, which has us non-compliant to the state standard. We are also deprioritizing issuance of approval letters. We're currently 1 behind. It's not quite as dire there, but the requirement there is 15 days. And I don't expect those issuance of approval letters from the 2nd of August hearing to be circulated for approval until next week. Our site walks by the office administrator to confirm completed orders of conditions needs to happen for each and every application so that we can ensure it's ready to go and ready for the commissioner hearings. That's been delayed and it's not happening. We're trying to cover the gap as best we can there, but there's a lot that the commissioners are not able to do on our Saturday site walks. We have a different focus there than ensuring application completion. Projects, almost all projects have orders of completion checkpoint inspection requirements to ensure that the wetlands are protected before the project proceeds. We're not able to do that. Businesses are currently on hold that have those interim checkpoints because we're not able to support those interim checkpoints. Yeah, so project orders of condition completion inspections to complete projects, transfer ownership, get final payment from the builders, etc. We're not able to do that. We're doing it on an urgent need basis only. And then we're not able to support enforcement orders and completions. So all of this is affecting our local businesses and our homeowners. Yeah, so just as some examples, in the past couple of weeks, I've had the office reach out to me to see if I could go on site walks. I'm trying to find commissioner time to go on site walks because we have a builder who's trying to do his close this Friday. We're not going to be able to support that work. So that's money on the table for him, right? And I don't know when the office is going to be able to get to that work. We have several real estate transactions that are being held up because there were legacy orders of conditions that had, escaped, right? And now that they're visible, those transactions can't happen until the orders of completion are signed off. In order for those orders of conditions to be signed off, we need our office personnel to go research the records, find out what orders of conditions applied to that project, and then someone from the office needs to go and do a site inspection to confirm that work was actually done. And in a lot of cases, we're going to find out it was done, and these folks are just on hold, right? So, and finally, members of the public, homeowners, they just want to do small projects, landscaping or whatnot. They're trying to do the right thing. They're contacting the office. There's there's nobody there except a couple of days a week. So they want to know, do I need to fill out a form? How do I fill out a form? What does it mean when you ask for this? Where do I go get the information? All that's not getting supported, right? And as you know, we're an all-volunteer commission. You guys well aware of that. You are as well. I'm fielding phone calls every day. I'm getting emails from members of the public because they don't know where to go, right? I'm a fairly new conservation commissioner. I'm also brand new chair, right? All of these are research projects for me. I don't want to let the public down, but it's impacting my day job. I can't let that continue, right? And similar, other members of my commission are also similarly stretched. So I'm here to advocate for a solution here, right? Interim solution. I know the land agent and town manager are working on some interim solutions, or at least I've heard they are. My ask of you is to prioritize backfilling the heads. Be asking the questions, keeping it visible so that we ensure this gets the right priority, okay? I also would like to get a heartbeat status from the office on what is happening with hiring. How many applicants do we have? Have we extended offers? Have any of them been rejected? Do we have next steps, right? Do we have interim plans? What are those? What's been considered, et cetera? I'm not getting that. Bob and I get, and he's my leg man because I don't have availability during the day, and so he's been gracious enough to go into the office and see what he can find out, right? When he bumps into people, he gets information. When I bump into people via phone, I get information. But then we're left trying to reconcile what's the information, what's the complete story, right? Is what I have more complete than what you have? Is there something else going on? We shouldn't be in the dark, right? Yeah, and then finally, I would like to have, for me, as the chair and the vice chair, a collaborator seat at the table. Right now, we're a disenfranchised business partner. And that's the sign of a broken business relationship. We don't get visibility to who the applicants are. We have no visibility to even the final list of applicants or the applicants that have been extended an offer. We are not included in interim planning strategies. What's happening, right? I understand that the land manager may have a resource borrow for 10 hours from an adjacent town. I have no idea why it's 10 hours and not 15 or 20. Why isn't it multiple resources? Again, you know, the resource hours that we seem to be missing is 300, and we're going to go with 10. It's better than nothing, and I don't want to be non-appreciative, but I wasn't even involved in the conversation. And I feel like as the business partner, particularly as the commission that's impacted by this, and the face to the public for Conservation Commission matters, we should at least have visibility and an opportunity to advocate for solutions. Thank you.
Well, thank you for that. I want to offer first a couple of comments. I appreciate seriously your commitment to being on a Conservation Commission. I think that we all can see the positive impact you've had for our community. You know, being in this role, I know that it is challenging when we have to give a lot more than what we expect to have to give. And I know, and I first want to thank you for being willing to give it. And then I want to also ask you to continue to keep giving it for just a little bit longer. You know, although you are in a situation where you're down about 300 hours over the course of roughly the year, we're generally down about 300 hours a week in terms of the staffing positions that we don't have filled. It is a significant burden on existing staff. We have multiple vacancies, you know, in multiple areas, and it doesn't seem unique to Lunenburg. Looking at current trends, it seems industry-wide. It is a challenging environment to navigate through. I don't know if you've heard in a previous meeting where I advocated that we may need to take that we must take another look at how we are organized and structured to see if there's a more efficient way to do it, given the current realities of the environment that we're in. And that's not by any stretch a slap on any of our current employees' hands. It's just, we have a structure that we've had for 40, 50 years.
And you got to innovate to survive.
Exactly, and it's probably about that point to innovate, given the extent of the vacancies. We haven't, as a member of the Conservation Commission, this board does not have a policy that would invite you to be a part of the hiring process. So what we have is a process that we entrust the town manager, HR director, assistant town manager to fully engage in that process. Even the ratifications that we do, we do not receive information related to other applicants. And I think we've taken the position that we have skilled, qualified people sitting in the roles, Julie's roles, Heather's role, and that we are trusting that they can, be the skilled professionals in the day-to-day that we trust them to be. I will ask Julie just to give a brief update. I am aware that there is, I think we have a couple of 3 interviews, is it scheduled, for next week, that this is an active process where they are actively working to fill this, and it is one of their priorities. But I know that, again, in the environment we're in, you're not the only, I don't want to make it seem like it's okay for things to be in the situation that they're in, but what I want to relay is that you're not alone. that we're all in this position, and that all staff members, while offering that 10 hours here, 15 hours there, that, you know, if you're in a 40-hour-a-week job and you can only do it for 25 hours a week because you have to give 15 hours somewhere else, you know, we're in this environment where everyone's working longer. Most people don't know, but for about 5-6 months of this year, everyone in the finance department was working Fridays and Saturdays too. And it's a challenging environment we're in. So I would ask that anyone at home who's listening and hearing this, then I think there's a couple of important things that we have to kind of think of is who do we know that can fill these important jobs? And the second part of this, and this is where we really have to invest more resources to help support Julie and to help support Heather, and that we need to kind of get engaged in the pipeline of all this stuff. And this is some of the work that I advocate for when I work with Senator Cronin and Representative Kuchmarek, is creating pipelines for these government jobs. And what are the pipelines? What does a qualified conservation agent look like? What does that training and experience come from to arrive at our doors? And what can we do to help ensure that people are entering this pipeline so that we have qualified applicants on the back end of it to fill these critical roles. So I know that these are conversations and work that, you know, that we're having as members with our state delegation, because it's a bigger issue. But internally, it's also, you know, reaching out to those local colleges. But again, it's having the capacity to do it, and having the capacity to identify those pipelines and really snatch those people. And then the other part of this, of course, is pay, in which, you know, when exit interviews are conducted, and I know I'm speaking a little lengthy here, but exit interviews are conducted to identify what are the reasons that people are moving on. And what we're identifying in this current market is that, you know, when the town's only going up 2% in a hyperinflationary period, and other jobs are going up 10-15, that people are leaving for money. And that is a big motivator here. So how do we also create jobs that are attractive to retain and attract those qualified candidates to come here? So I want to say, as one member, that I hear you. I think this is a complicated thing, and I hope that in my answer to you, I'm demonstrating that clearly I've given this a lot of energy and time. But it's a challenging framework that we're in, and I would ask, just hold on a little bit longer, and we will get there. But I also want to pause and just turn to any members of the board for any comments. But I do hear what you're saying, and this is a challenging environment for a lot of departments right now.
Well, my one comment, I mean, I agree with most everything you said as far as the scope and the breadth of vacancies that we have and that exist in municipalities seemingly across the Commonwealth. I don't know about other states, so it's not unique. And I know that the town and the town administration is doing their best to fill them. One thing I did want to point, so I agree with everything the chair said on that. The one thing I do want to say that maybe, and maybe this is the time to talk about it because we're talking about selectmen goals. I mean, this has come up many times, and it's come up from the Board of Assessors, come up now from the Conservation Commission. I know it comes up with the Planning Board that have advisors working with them. We really have to revisit how those bodies, how those elected and appointed bodies can be integrated into the hiring process. I think it's come up enough that we really need to look at that and have an honest discussion and hear the pros and cons about doing it instead of just doing it because we've done it. So I would say that is something that really needs to be addressed because, again, the Conservation Commission works hand in hand with the conservation agent, Planning Board with the planning director, other bodies as well. And I think there's probably room, even the way the charter is written, I think there's room for their inclusion in some degree. I mean, I don't know if it's with interviews or they get a list that gets past the HR department and the town manager, and there's this passed the first screening, now we can focus on these people, and that's where they get involved. Yeah, whatever, I think there needs to be a discussion because it's really important that they be included in the process.
Yeah, so I just want to follow up on that a little bit because in my day job, we have been recruiting it's just nonstop because we can't find people. And so I'm seeing how we handle hiring and recruiting in that environment, and now I'm seeing it from this side. And there's some differences, and I don't know if there need to be. For example, we have a a recruiter, not an external recruiter. We have, you know, an HR department recruiter who does the initial screening, but we provide, we write the job description, or we review what the recruiter writes for our job description. The hiring managers are involved in that process. The recruiter will do the first screen. We talk to them what we're looking for, you know, certain things. He'll do the first screen and then say, okay, this is what made my short list. And then the hiring manager reviews and says, yes, call these people, or no, forget about these. Initial HR call, and then they pass that, and the hiring managers are brought in and talk. So there's a screening, but the hiring team and hiring managers are more involved, and I can see through the online tool how many applicants there are, how many have made it through, how many have been, you know, eliminated. And I feel like there's not that kind of transparency
Exactly.
in the town. And I think it may take some of the burden off of Julie and Heather, you know, of doing just do the initial screen and then rely on the people they're going to be working with to do the hiring manager call, the hiring team interview. And then if we say, yes, you know, we invite them in, go through the whole thing, meet the whole team, yes, we want to make an offer, then it goes to HR and they do all the negotiating, they do the salary. We will say, oh, that's going to ruin our internal equity if we go that high. You know, we give them boundaries, but they do the negotiating and get into that nitty-gritty detail. But I haven't seen so far, and this is my perspective, but I haven't seen that kind of any engagement or transparency with the groups that are trying to fill vacancies.
Yeah. It is challenging. I think that one of the unique things in town government is that most of our employees are in unions. And so there's a whole different conversation that has to happen with, you know, making sure that job descriptions are in line with the union contracts. So I know on our end, there is a lot more on that front end of it, unlike in private business, if you don't have the unionized workforce. There's a lot more on our front end of it. And then also, I think when you know, the qualification to get on any board is you know, to be a resident of Lunenburg and have an interest, and that doesn't necessarily impart people on those critical things you can ask in a job interview.
Exactly.
You know, that there's a lot of training that goes into being able to conduct an interview. And I think it's almost like a snowball effect, that when we're in this environment where we have so many vacancies and everyone's doing more work already, it's hard to be able to have the time to do what I think we all recognize is a necessary step forward, which is engaging the people who are going to be working, the key stakeholders who will be working with these key personnel, and having them engage in the process. That in order to do that, there's a whole learning curve that has to happen on the front end of that takes a little bit more time. But I do think that there's a clear road ahead, and I'm comforted, Tom, to hear your comments tonight. I think they are very much so aligned with mine, which is that, you know, I want to just reiterate that I do believe very strongly that Heather and Julie are doing an excellent job in trying to fill the vacancies. But I also hear, as this has come up repetitiously, and I wholeheartedly agree, that, you know, on our side, I think we have to create probably a clearer framework on what ratification for us looks like, and that's the mechanism given the charter that we have, and that's probably the way to do it, is to define if when this board ratifies an appointment, that what are the steps that we're looking to have been performed prior to that point, without also stepping on the toes of what exclusive purview the town manager does have, which she has very exclusive purview when it comes to hiring. And so it's like this best practice that we are all accustomed to, and then there's the norm, or rather the law, that we've created for ourselves, which is a little bit disconnected from it. And so it's how do we, you know, make this work? So I hear you on this topic. I want to give Mr. Franco the opportunity to also comment if he has a comment, and then I definitely want to hear about the good news.
Yeah, I was wondering as she was speaking, I was like, what was this good news you were talking about? 'Cause, so, yeah, this maybe turned into a broader discussion than you were anticipating, but it is a good discussion. Just one thing that occurred to me is, you know, I don't know necessarily what this would look like, but let's just, I mean, specifically, I'm just taking a nuts and bolts hypothetical example, but I don't know if you're suggesting that once an applicant pool has been whittled down to, say, like 3 applicants or something, then boards get to see it or something, or we get to see it. But if that is what you're saying, something like that, my one concern I potentially have is, would that have to be part of a public hearing? And then now the beans are spilled on those applicants that put in applications, and their town, 3 towns over, knows that they're looking for a job.
Yes.
So,
That's a valid concern.
Yep, that is correct.
So I guess if they understand that, but that may put a chilling effect on applicants, make it even worse. It could blow up and backfire.
That wouldn't work at all. I mean, even aside from other towns finding out they're leaving, you don't, when you're interviewing for a job, you don't know who else is interviewing for the same position. Everything's done in confidence, so.
But that is, but his point about open meeting law is a fair one, because there is no exemption for a public body. This is part, having served on 2 charter review committees, this was part of the discussion. And that's why I'm saying we're willing to, I want to have the discussion, but there are parameters, and there is no way for the Conservation Commission to discuss potential applicants in a closed session. There is zero possibility of that. So that's what you're left with. Either you don't have them do it, or if they do it, you're going to make public who you're doing it with, unless, of course, there is some other compromise that you can distribute resumes and they just don't, there's some other mechanism. I don't know. But that's what we have to discuss. But that is one of the real pitfalls that a municipal entity has.
And I think what I'm hearing tonight is you're more interested in like a designee, right? That you're not looking for.
Yes. As a hiring manager, I'm well aware of the, training you have to go through, what you can ask, what you can't ask in a non-union environment, right? And then the open meeting law conundrum about, applicant confidentiality. But a designate, or for crying out loud, just knowing that they're interviewing, how many people they're interviewing.
Well,
how many people have been?
That part is certainly overcomable. We can overcome that.
Just
I would
a
hope, but
status
right
update.
now, I'm in the dark.
I understand.
Yeah.
What I'm saying, that's a hurdle that I think we can get over much more readily than the other things.
So we happen to be joined tonight by our Human Resources Assistant Town Manager.
Hi.
So Julie, I don't want to put you on the spot here. If you have
No, it's fine, and I think I can speak to this because I have it, I do it firsthand. So much like the process that Renee described is what we actually do in-house. So I am I'm a strong advocate that HR director should be present at all interviews. Unfortunately, with the amount of openings, I can't do it. It takes a lot just pre-screening, and I send them out to the hiring manager. And unfortunately, per charter, most boards, committees, commissions aren't the supervisor. We have the land use director who oversees the conservation commissioner, who's very much involved in this process with me. He's been filling in for the conservation administrator as much as he can.
All right, the poor guy's
yeah,
here. It's falling
exactly.
out, right? I'm not slighting anybody.
No, I know. I'm
he's
trying to
stressed.
give you peace of mind here. So he and I have been working together. We have interviewed, and at any time, I want everybody to know that if there's ever a question of what's going on with the hiring process, just ask. I can answer it, he could answer it, we're both involved in it. We have interviewed 2 previously, out of 3. One accepted another position, so she didn't take the interview. Out of the 2, we made an offer. The offer was made to someone who lives near Boston. The commute was taken into consideration as well as the rate of pay. Since then, we've received 4 other applicants, and they have all been reached out to. 1 didn't return my message, and 3 are scheduled for next week. 1 is out of state right now, so we'll be doing that by Zoom. Unfortunately, it's not conservation administrators or agents leaving other communities. The one that is going to be interim, she is an assistant assessor in another town. The reason why she can only give limited hours is because she already works 36 hours, I believe, 32 or 36. So she's looking at doing nights, which will be the minutes for the meetings, maybe some weekend time, and Friday. as well. So we're doing what we can do. The job has been posted on the Conservation Commission Association website
Yeah, I've seen it there.
since
Yeah.
day one. It's still there. You know, and it's much like the finance positions that we have, you have to keep renewing them. Everybody, if you watch the Mass Municipal Jobs page, you'll see Conservation Administrator, Finance Director. Everybody's looking for these very specific positions. But going back to the hiring process, it is very much what Renee had described. And I've worked in private employment as well, and that is a much faster speed. Not so many hoops you have to jump through, but like Michael Ray had said, you know, the contract was one thing, the clerical union contract was one hoop we had to jump through to get the interim to fill the position. So now that we've spoken to the union and they're on board, we can move forward with hopefully next week having her ratified as a temporary conservation administrator and get that going as soon as the 23rd. So hopefully that gives you some peace of mind.
So the end is nigh, but it's still going to be a time period to get someone
It
up to
is.
speed. And again, you know, there's no, we have to, I think it's a structurally, I think we have to take another look in order to really position ourselves to be in the best position. I know I'm using the position too much, but if we can position ourselves to be in the best position we can be in to be competitive in this space with other communities. But it is a challenge, and I want to say I do hear you, Mary. I think we all do.
So what would be the best way that you would recommend that I would get visibility to the current status? Should I send an email every 2 weeks?
Yeah, I think
What?
that typically, I mean, Heather's on vacation. She normally would be the primary point of contact for this. And so I would recommend that you, I'm sure the communication will go from Julie, but I think that there's a way for the town for the office to provide your board, and especially you as the head of the board, with just updates on where you guys are at, especially given the real harm that I think you outlined at the very beginning of this, of what the impact is, that it's clearly something you want to know is in motion, and you want to have that some assurance that things are happening there. And I think that there's a way to get there, so.
And might I ask, are there other towns with part-time administrators that might be looking for other hours that we could reach out to?
Heather, she reached out to, I believe, 3 communities, and this one was referred to from one that she did reach out to.
I'm aware that some communities have part-time conservation administrators. That's where our previous one came from, looking for, extra hours, a job that was full-time. So that
Right.
looks, to me, on the surface like a potential
So
opportunity.
I think as a next step, what I would recommend is for, you and Julie to have a conversation probably offline, and hopefully that will give some better guidance on next steps.
Okay. All right. Shall we shift gears to good news?
Yes.
All righty.
Well, I think,
The way we like to
I
end the
would say,
conversation.
I don't think that staffing is necessarily bad news. And I think that when we have these conversations, it's important to inform the community, the residents, the taxpayers, of just the status of things in the most honest, direct way possible. And I think it's always good to hear the efforts that staff are taking to help resolve these conflicts and the real challenges that exist in the environment to achieve, goals. And so I think it's healthy to have these conversations. I don't want to say that was a negative conversation or bad news. It was just, the
It
challenges.
wasn't the good news.
The challenges that you're working through and how we're working together to get to resolution.
All right. So the Lunenburg Conservation Commission has been awarded $61,305 in a Mass Trails Program grant.
Excellent.
This was a grant application that I submitted as the vice chair back in January with support and assistance from then Chair Bob Pease. So this grant will help fund the development of engineered plans for improvements to 3 conservation areas. These improvements include the creation of 2 parking areas off Northfield Road, the Table Rock Conservation Area and the Reno Conservation Area. And then at the Cowdrey area off Townsend Harbor Road, plans will be developed to improve the cart path there that provides access to the handicapped accessible Harold Harley Wildlife Viewing Platform. And then also at the Cowdrey, site plans will be developed for a bridge over Mulpus Brook at the base of the Beaver Pond to provide a direct connection between the southern Cowdrey Trail System and the northern Cowdrey Trail System, which are currently disconnected trail systems. The grant requires that the town provide matching funds of $15,450, which will come from the Conservation Commission's Timber Rights Fund. The money in the Timber Rights Fund comes from the sale of timber harvested from conservation land. The grant funds will become available during the 2024 calendar year. In addition to developing the site plans, the engineering firm hired for this work will apply for the wetlands permits, apply to the planning board site plan review process, including any required stormwater plans, and apply for driveway permits. The commission will use the site plans developed to provide cost estimates to actually build each project. In 2025, the Conservation Commission anticipates using the cost estimates to apply for additional Mass Trails program grants to support each project. If the second application is successful, the goal would be to start the projects beginning in 2026 calendar year.
Excellent.
Congratulations.
Thanks.
This is excellent. I mean, it's so amazing the work you guys are doing to really make make the conservation land so accessible to so many people. This is really good stuff.
Totally agree.
Well, thank you. And with that, we'll let you get on with your agenda. Thank you for the time
Thank you
tonight,
both.
gentlemen and ladies.
I think the only thing we have left is adjourning. No, we have some goals. Thank you, Mary, and thank you, Bob.
you.
That was easier than I expected. After 8 months of conditioning, I didn't know if I could handle good news.
All right. So, going back to our goals. So, let me just find where I left off. Hold on. So, looking at objective 1, and then I think we should talk a little bit about that, but looking at objective 1, continue to pursue a project acceptable to the town regarding the property and building at 30 School Street, which is continuation of fiscal year 21 through 23 goals. Some of these steps have already been completed, so this objective has modified over the years as things have happened. So the current what's being proposed is current actions. Action 1, seek public engagement to review and evaluate landscape architect plans for potential resubmission at 24 annual town meeting. Action 2, create working title that identifies multi-generational benefit for residents with a clear, unique purpose. And Action 3, communicate and identify funding sources. At our last meeting on this, we also discussed how this is in part tied to the Municipal Building Design Committee. I think, as I remember, Mr. Alonso, you had made a comment that this is a challenging time, given the money that was abated, that is no longer available to the town. That this is a challenging time to ask residents with the Marshall Park to go forward. But I think that there's building on that, I think that there is some tie-in here with Municipal Building Design Committee. And I try to formulate an objective that was in line with what we had discussed, but I think that we may want to consider melding this into a municipal building design goal as well.
Well, we have a municipal building design committee. Why would the select board have this municipal design goal? I mean, they may be related. Obviously, everything in this is all interrelated, but
Yeah.
I just don't. Yeah. I mean, I think the goal as written is fine. I did say it was challenging time, and the town manager convinced me that, you know what, if we don't keep it going, the chance of it continuing to go is very low, if nothing. So I think that is a good point to make, that we've made good progress, and so we should continue. And I will reiterate that I think we had an excellent plan, and while I'm for potentially looking at it and looking at ways to modify it, maybe to reduce certain costs, I think it was a very complete plan that addressed all the needs that we looked at and presented to the landscape architect as a board. And I think we should continue looking for that and looking for the ways to make that happen.
All right. So I know there's a little bit of cleanup here I need to do on some of the typos I made, but are there any other, are we all liking objective number 1 generally?
Yeah, I tend to agree with Mr. Alonso, too. My fear is that if we try to roll it into a broader municipal design committee goal, that it's going to become more amorphous and unattainable, like to do as a goal in 1 year.
Yeah.
So.
Okay. So, I think where we can leave off on this then is I'll do a little bit of cleanup on these next week when we have our 5th member back from training, that we can just run through them again at that point, make any final modifications and approve.
Makes sense.
All right. Do we want to, I mean, I know that in my conversations with the town manager, she wanted to work with Julie to kind of take a stab at what this staffing, I know that she has her own goals that she hasn't presented yet, but we'll be hearing those in the coming weeks. But I know that she wants to kind of take her own stab at how to address this collaboration effort with, regarding staff who work with appointed or elected boards. So I think before we touch it, I'd really want to see what Heather puts forward.
It's going to be a dialogue. It has to be a dialogue between this board and the town manager and the HR director and the boards and committees that this addresses. So, I mean,
yeah,
I don't feel, I mean, just to be clear to this board and to the public, I don't think this is true of every ratification. I think this is true of ratifications for those committees, commissions, and boards that have something specific that work with them every day.
Okay. I would draw that distinction too.
Okay.
Good. Okay. All right, sounds good. So, what we have coming up on September the 5th is we have a dog hearing.
When is that?
September the 5th.
Oh, boy.
So, we're basically clearing the agenda that night.
I forgot that, yes.
We're basically going to clear the agenda that night. Next meeting, for the benefit of Selectman Imke and Selectman Nuzzello, we will kind of walk through what the dog hearing process looks like in a little bit more detail so that we're all very prepared. We have to really be by the book on this one because you can get whatever we do if we decide to make certain determinations that identify that a dog is dangerous, and if we decide to take any action related to that, then the owner of that animal would be entitled to appellate rights. And so we have to make sure that as we go through this process that we all know kind of what we're doing. So we will spend some time next week reviewing that. Next week, between now and next week, I will also, Mr. Alonso, be reaching out to you to review, it's likely going to be over the weekend, to review a draft finalized report related to the investigation. It's not the final, but it's a draft for us to then have conversations and make some modifications. So my expectation is that on the 22nd, we will discuss that, and we also will discuss ARPA. So we're going to be in for a little bit of a lengthier meeting, but we don't want to overwhelm ourselves, and the goal is, I will try to set a time goal of about 9:30, and then what we can't get done, we will push to September. So I will also reach back out to Dr. Chandler with her request, because I was okay with the 22nd, but I know that Elaine had the communication with her, and that was the agreement on the 12th, but hearing what you said tonight, it sounds like there was some motive behind why it should have been the 22nd.
Well, I think she asked for the 22nd.
She did.
Okay. Yeah.
So we'll re-engage with her as well, just to confirm as well. All right, so September 5th, dog hearing, and again, next meeting, we'll target 9:30. All right, do we have any public comments this evening from the public? Anna?
Hi, good evening.
Good evening.
This is Anna Lockwood from 91 Main Street. I am speaking on my behalf. As you may know, I'm the chair of the Parks Commission. I do want to talk about the park on 30 School Street. So even my off hours, I'm usually thinking of parks and open space and accessibility and all. you know, when town meeting rejected the money for funding the engineering for 30 School Street, there were some concerns, and I did speak on that meeting about those concerns. One of those concerns were, you know, from my point of view, was a premature plan. And the reason for being a premature plan was we have several buildings in town that will need different infrastructures at different locations, and we need to figure out those things before we tie land to park. Once you tie a piece of land to park, you cannot turn into anything else. Similar to when you turn a land into a conservation commission. Now, if a park is turned into a park because, you know, but it's not under the care and control of a parks commission, you're still turning a piece of land into a parkland. So I would, you know, first of all, be mindful about doing such a thing and turning a piece of land that in the future we may want to use for some other purpose. And that may not be the best one. The other thing is, I still think the plan is premature, and I was actually, I've been listening to the meeting, as you know, as you can hear, and I was actually happy when the chairman spoke about tying this design to the building committee, because I can see that relationship. And that relationship, in my view, is we don't know what's happening with 3 very large pieces of buildings in town and piece of land, and we don't know what kind of infrastructure we have. So I can tell you that I think that building a park there is premature. I can see other locations in town center within town with land that's owned and is in the current control of the select board that will have a better that will serve better for the purpose that you want for the park on 30 School Street. For example, the land right in front of TCP, putting an amphitheater there, sounds like a great idea. I don't know if we can ever turn that piece of land into anything but, you know, open space, just because of, you know, maybe a great architect could do it. But, you know, I know we will need parking. I think that the lack of parking in town center is something known. We're adding more business to town center. There is a new building going to where it used to be a property owned by a church, and it's going to be a school, which we're very excited. There is a building across the Reader Library that's going to be also a business. And all of those things create more need for parking. Tying a piece of land right now to a park, I don't think is a good idea, and I still think it's premature. Thank you. Again, I spoke as Anna Lockwood from 91 Main Street and not as the chair of the Parks Commission. Thank you, and have a good night.
Thank you, Anna. All right, do we have any other public comments from the public this evening? All right, seeing none, do we have any public comments from the board? Julie? All right. Okay, again, our next meeting will be next week, August 22nd at 7 p.m. I want to thank everyone for joining us tonight, and I trust that you all will keep well, and we'll hopefully see you soon in another week from now. Is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
Any additional, we have a motion, a second, any additional conversation? All right, as many as are in favor of the motion, please say aye. Aye. Those opposed, no. All right, the time is 8:49, and we are adjourned. Again, to those at home, have a wonderful evening.
Recording stopped.